Hi there everyone, and welcome to one of my first proper singular OBS tutorials. Now, this one here is going to be purely focusing on audio. Now, I will be touching on how to work on adjusting your microphone properly using VST plugins, but I would recommend having a look elsewhere on YouTube to see if there's a specific tutorial for your microphone. My specific use case only really applies for my Blue Yeti. Now, the Blue Yeti is one of the, I would say, hardest to configure based on how much time I've put into doing this. So follow this along as a guide. It'll be fairly useful for playing around with the audio that your microphone outputs. Obviously, if you're just starting out with streaming, this one will be incredibly useful if you're using a headset mic, because you can increase the quality of it as long as it's a good quality headset mic. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start off by giving you an example of how this microphone sounds with no filters enabled. So you'll see here that I have my Blue Yeti mic set up as an audio source. And when I go into filters, what you see here is the VST plugins. So we have a VST plugin for my noise gate, my EQ, the compressor, and then some gain. So what happens when I disable all of these? Well, you're just about to find out. So I'm going to disable gain, and you'll notice that my voice is a little bit lower. I'm going to disable the compressor, and loud noises are going to get very loud. I'm going to get rid of my EQ, and you'll find that things just don't sound too right. And then I get rid of my noise gate, and then all the sounds will come through. So this is what it sounds like with no noise gate, no EQ, no filters. You'll probably hear a little bit of background noise. Now, this mic is probably not sounding too bad for what it is, but I'll turn the filters back on and you'll see what they were actually doing. So now that I've got that re-enabled, obviously my voice is probably a little bit louder because of the gain. It's probably sounding a little bit more even because of the EQ, and you'll also find that the fan behind me is no longer blowing on the microphone and coming through because there's a noise gate. So, how do you get this working, and why is it going to benefit you? Well, first things first, noisy environments. Say, for instance, you stream from a laptop with a noisy fan, you've got an air conditioner in your room, dogs, all those kind of things can affect the quality of your audio. So what you essentially want to do is cancel out everything in the background and just have you sounding when you talk. Now, I'll also go through how to make noise gates less obvious, which is something that I've found extremely useful. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump straight into it. Now, we're going to need a couple of things, and I'll be linking this above. You're going to need Reaper, and then you're also going to need the VST plugins for OBS. And that is it. That's all you need in order to get everything set up properly. Now, OBS does have these filters built in. However, Reaper and VST plugins, using them together allows you to better tune the filters for your audio quality. Now, before we go with this, the key here is any of your voice audio in OBS, in the current version, you want to hit around this yellow section here, between -20 and -10 decibels. If you start going into the red, you're too loud. And at that point, you may need to look at adding a compressor, which I'll touch on shortly as well. Any background audio that you do have, whether that be music or game audio, should be within the -60 to -30. And I'll also touch on how to duck the audio if you do want it a little bit louder, so that when you talk here, this will actually go down, and then when you finish talking, it will come back up to normal ranges. So, first things first, we're going to download Reaper. And what we're going to do in Reaper is we're going to take a 10-second recording of a sentence. So in this instance, what we're going to do is, I'll just get rid of that. So when you first open Reaper, you'll see this. Now, in theory, it should add all of your inputs properly the first time. If they don't, what you may have to do is add them. Now, in order to do that, Where did they hide it? What's here? Apparently I'm blind. I'm very blind today. Aha. So you want to click up the top here, and you want to make sure that it is WhatsAppy, and you want it to be shared mode, input device, obviously your microphone, and then we use the output device, which will be your headphones. Make sure it's 2 channels for input, 2 channels for output, and block size 512. Now, if your headphones are using, say, 58,000 hertz, and your microphone is using 44,000 hertz or 44,500 hertz, you'll find that it'll error out. You just need to make sure that your headphone and microphone are on the same sample rate. Now, what we're going to do here is you can just, I'll just show you how you do it again. So you just double click in here, and what you should be able to do, as long as everything's all there, you can just hit the record armed here, and what you should see down below here is actually, you know, it's picking up voice and audio. Now, what you want to actually do here is read out a sentence for at least 10 to 15 seconds, because what we're going to do is we're actually going to loop this, and in order to loop that properly, we actually need to have it really nice and constant. So I'm going to record my voice now, and we're going to get a sample. The lazy brown fox jumped over the slow green turtle, and it was quite an event to behold. All right, so you'll see here that I've obviously got this. Move that to the beginning so that it actually does that properly. And then what we're going to do is we're basically just going to usually it lets me cursor, delete that, and then split item cursor again, and delete that, and then move that forward. So now what will happen is, quite simply, I'll just grab my headphones. I'll do this. Is in a second you're going to hear my voice loop. Okay. The lazy brown fox jumped over the slow green turtle, and it was quite an event to behold. The lazy brown fox jumped over the slow... Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to press play, and you're going to hit toggle repeat. So what that's going to do is it's just going to endlessly repeat. Quite an event to behold. The lazy brown fox jumped over the slow green turtle, and it was quite an event to behold. Alright, so with that done, what we're going to do first is we're going to configure your noise gate. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to go to the filters for your device, for your microphone. And as long as you have the VST plugins enabled that I'll link to in the description and before, you should see in this list Regate Standalone. And then what you'll do is you'll go open plugin interface. Now what this is going to allow you to do is create a noise gate. So as you can see here, as long as I'm talking over where the line is on this little bar, it's going to actually output it here. So see how I was talking there and it was obviously not loud enough to come through. That's what a noise gate does. It helps with removing background noise, but it can be incredibly jarring if you don't set it up properly. So as a basis, all the settings can stay the same. All you want to adjust is this here. This is all you need to touch. So what you want to do is you want to get an idea of your ambient noise to get an idea of where to start at. So what I generally would recommend is sit quietly and get an ambient reading. So we'll see what the ambient reading looks like and where it goes on the noise gate for me, and then I'll show you what to do next. So as you can see there, that was my ambient. So that where it was bouncing and wiggling up and down in the green section just here, that shows me what my baseline noise is. So I want it to be above that. Now, what if there's a random noise in the background that you couldn't account for when you just did that test? Well, that's why you want to adjust it so that your voice becomes the benchmark. So as you can see here, it's my voice right now as I'm speaking is going above this level here. So if I was to lower that down further, what that's going to do is allow me to start up a lot quicker, but it's also going to allow background noise to come in at the same time. So say if my dog barks, that's probably going to come through the noise gate because I can't really account for that. That's just an unfortunate side effect of having a dog that barks. But you can use this to get around, say, a rotating fan. You can probably adjust for that. If not, it's just something you might just have to live with until you can filter that out a bit better or change that situation. But for now, just make sure that as you talk that you're not getting any skipping. So say out a sentence and make sure that it's actually coming through in the output mix on this side. The moment you start speaking and that's basically jumping all over the place and going away as you speak, then you've probably got your noise gate set too aggressively. It's because you actually don't want this to cut off while you're still speaking. So if you tend to be the type of person that speaks very low and then goes very loud or takes long pauses, then you may find you want to make your noise gate less aggressive. Mine here, I probably had it too aggressive when I first started. However, I've adjusted this to compensate a little bit more for how I tend to speak. So you will find yourself adjusting this over time. Now, the next thing we want to work on is the EQ. Now, this is the reason why we did the recording. Because what we're going to do is we're actually going to set the Reaper settings in Reaper for the noise, for the EQ here. So as you'll see here, this is where my voice is. And what we're essentially doing is changing the frequencies along certain paths to make it sound more natural or how you want it to sound. So if you want to sound really high pitched, this is how you do it. So let's go back into Reaper here and let's see what we can do. So what we're going to now do, and I'm actually going to just turn down my background audio a little bit while I do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to FX. So if you saw where that was, it's right here, this little button here, and I'll zoom in on it. And what we're looking for here is VST REA EQ. And we want to go OK. And this is going to bring up this little window here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to press play. Fox jumped over the slow green turtle, and it was quite an event to behold. The lazy brown fox jumped over the slow green turtle. And you'll notice that there. So what we're going to do first, and I'm just going to go back to referencing my own settings here. All right. So for tab 1 here, make sure that that is set to high pass. That's something you'll never touch. Well, we won't be touching the frequency on the high pass section. For 2, make sure that's set to band. For 3, make sure that's set to low shelf. And then for 4, make sure that's set to high shelf. So what we're essentially going to do here is essentially match my EQ settings for what I already have in OBS. So I'm going to put that up here. So the yellow here, as you can see, is me speaking right now. That's the frequency that my voice is outputting right now through OBS and through the EQ plugin. So let's kick off the voice again. And it was quite an event to behold. The lazy brown fox jumped over the slow green turtle. So see how it's completely different to what you're now seeing here. This is very natural. This is essentially the raw input from the microphone. It's not cleaned up, it's not crystal, it's a little bit not quite right. So we're going to click on tab 2. And then what we're going to do is we're going to kick off the play of the repeat, and we're going to go through 3 and 4, and we're going to adjust the frequency slider. Sorry, not the frequency slider. The gain slider here, like that. And you'll see that it's going to modulate the yellow line, so the frequency of your voice. So let's do that now. And you will hear it playing over the recording, so you'll be able to adjust it on the fly. It's very handy. And it was quite an event to behold. The lazy brown fox jumped over the slow green turtle, and it was quite an event to behold. The lazy brown fox jumped over the slow green turtle, and it was quite an event to behold. The lazy brown fox jumped over the slow green turtle, and it was quite an event to behold. The lazy brown fox jumped over the slow green turtle, and it was quite an event to behold. The lazy brown fox jumped over the slow green turtle, and it was quite an event to behold. The lazy brown fox jumped over the slow green turtle, and it was quite an... Alright, so this is what I've come out with just by quickly just running through those settings. Now, I generally recommend spending most of your time listening to your voice recording and looping through this, because if you get this right the first time, you're going to save yourself a lot of hassle down the line. So once you've got that done, all you want to do is have the noise gate EQ plugin open in OBS and quite simply go to 2 and then copy the gain into 2 on OBS. Do the same for 3 and 4, and you should end up with the one in OBS matching what you've done in Reaper. And then once you've done that, you can pretty much close out of Reaper and you no longer have to worry about that, because now you've got everything in OBS. What I would recommend is once you find what you do want, note down these tabs, because it can get really annoying if, say, for instance, OBS dies, you switch computers, you didn't save your settings. These are important. Note these down, take screenshots of each tab and save it to like a cloud drive or something so that you don't lose it. Now, compressor. This is something that I feel a lot of people that get really excited and like to shout and scream should definitely have. Now, a lot of bigger streamers obviously have hardware compressors, hardware soundboards, all that weird, incredibly complicated stuff that I have no idea about. But this is how you deal with getting really excited and not destroying the ears of your viewers. So what you want to do is create a new audio filter like we've done before and set this one to Recomp Standalone and then open it. So what you're going to see here is your compressor settings. What I generally recommend is to copy these down. These are the settings that I would recommend and have found to be best. Now, as you can see here, this is my current output. So this is how many decibels I'm currently outputting. This is the compressor. So when I'm talking over a certain point, it's literally compressing the audio to make it sound quieter than it actually is. So this slider here adjusts your at what point you should be compressed. Now I've got mine set fairly aggressively because I do tend to move around with my mic. I don't really have it in a really static position, so I've made it a little bit more aggressive, so if I'm really close to the microphone, then I'm not going to destroy the ears of my viewers. Whereas if I'm really far away, I'm also not going to have the same effect. So, copy down these settings in the envelope, and what we're going to be looking for here is obviously your output, and then this red section here is going to show when it's being compressed. So, forewarning, I am going to yell in order to show you how to set up the compressor. So you've been warned. If you need to turn me down now, and I'll let you know when to turn me back up. So you're about to see what happens when I get really excited and the compressor kicks into overdrive. Wow, that's amazing. Notice how I knocked off like minus 10 decibels off of that? If I did not have that compressor on, that would have absolutely destroyed your ears, even with a low volume. So the compressor is incredibly important if you want to yell, scream, get excited, and not destroy the ears of your viewers. In order to do this, all you do is basically look at where your noise gate is and adjust it to above that. So your noise gate is where you're at your quietest. Your compressor is when you're at your loudest. So what you want to do is account for being really loud. And it might be very rare that you're really loud, but trust me when I say there will be moments where you get really excited and you just want to be able to make sure you're not destroying your viewers' ears. So use that as a baseline. Set that slider to whatever negative decibel figure that you set your noise gate to, and then move it upwards until you're comfortable that you're compressing your voice properly. Now, in order to test this, you need to do recordings. So I'd highly recommend in OBS, once you have this set up how you might like it, close it to save the compressor settings, and then hit start recording and speak really low, and then yell. Yell at your microphone, and then find out if your compressor is working. If you're finding that it's hurting your ears, it's probably going to be hurting your viewers' ears too. So at that point, you want to bring your compressor levels up a bit more, and that should hopefully make it a little bit less aggressive. Now, gain is a built-in plugin for audio. You may find you don't need this. Depending on what mic you have, you won't need this. Now, my Blue Yeti actually has a gain dial on here to adjust the gain on the microphone. In the case of the Blue Yeti, you never want to turn the gain up on the microphone. You're better off turning up the gain in OBS, like I have here. So I probably don't need the gain to be at 10 decibels. I could probably go with it being a little bit less, but I did find in recent stream that putting it at this made it a little bit better. So do with this as you please. You may not need a gain. You may only need a gain if you're finding that your voice is not hitting the yellow section here in the OBS EQ preview. And that is filters. Now, I've covered this before, but I'm going to go through this again as part of this, and it's ducking. So, what you want to do is you want to go into the filters for your audio source, whether that be your headset, your speakers, whatever your output audio will be. And I generally recommend doing this for every single audio output that you have. So if you say have two sound systems, so a separate system for music and then another system for your game audio, do the ducking to both so that then they're equal. And you can even make it so that when music is playing, you're also ducking your game audio in that case. But in this instance, all I want to do is make sure that my background noise, whether that be music or game audio, is ducked when I talk, so that my viewers can actually hear me over the game audio or the music. So, what you want to do is copy every one of these settings, except for the threshold, and make your sidechain ducking source your microphone. That is it. Now, threshold is incredibly important. The threshold is how much you want your audio to duck. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into Spotify, and I'm going to find some really nice royalty-free music, and I'm going to play it. And now I'm going to talk, and you'll notice that the music isn't as loud as it was before. This is ducking, and this is incredibly awesome to use if you want your viewers to be able to hear you. Now, how much it ducks depends on this threshold. So watch this. Now it's going to duck to the point where you can actually not hear the audio at all, or very barely. So what you want to do is adjust the threshold to the point where you're happy that it's a nice balance between the ducking and the viewers being able to hear you. So I've found around about 3/3s worked fine for me, but this will vary. And that is how you set up ducking. So, I hope you've enjoyed this little tutorial. Like I said, links to everything that I used are in the description and also back a little bit further in the video. If you do have any questions, please feel free to hop into the Twitch Adelaide Discord, which I've also linked in the description, and head into the Stream Help channel. Ask your question, and I'll be more than happy to try and get back to you. You just want to @SammyOz, and yeah, thank you very much for hanging out. If you would like to see more of these tutorials, comment below or hit me up on Discord in the Twitch Adelaide channel. I'd be more than happy to look at doing a tutorial for you. I hope you've enjoyed this. Like I said, I'll also be linking to everything that I have used today to do this tutorial, and if you liked this, subscribe. If you loved it, like it. If you absolutely despised it, dislike it. And I will see you in the next one.